This is in my audience. This is gonna be my mom, my younger sister, and then we have my dog. And then these are the flashcards I'm gonna use during my presentation. Alright, so we're first gonna be discussing our fast fashion women's communication created by me. Okay, so on our last meeting, we basically just discussed the concept in diversity and kind of how it relates to our different identities, our cultures, and experiences. We also just basically brainstormed the connections between diversity and everyday topics. We then reviewed our course reading, prioritizing our women's communication and how styles and relationships kind of all build together. And then we concluded for this meeting that we're going to focus more on fast fashion and how it affects the different communities. I just wanted to point out I did upload a picture of our Tuxman's ladder. We have been using this throughout our unit and I hope to use this as our group moving forward. Okay, so on today's agenda we just have our introduction, which is going to be our current slide. We then have genders, communication, and diversity, which is going to be slide 4, personal and cultural connection, which is slide 5, and then the why it matters in conclusion on slide 6. So in today's goal, we're just going to explore how communication, diversity, and fast fashion are all connected. So for today's question, I did want to put up what does diversity look like. So I do want you guys to take some notes for this for our next time because I am going to be asking this question, but what does diversity look like? Basically, it's just the differences amongst people and kind of how they present / express themselves. It's just based on their cultures, their backgrounds, their experiences, beliefs, and also kind of their identities. So our gendered communication and diversity. So some key concepts I just kind of wanted to point out is kind of communication builds relationships. It's anything kind of like our meeting of one-on-one or through a school, talking to people and things like that can kind of help you see how they express themselves to others. It also kind of helps create an understanding and support through fashion, through homework, through anything like that. People usually like to help each other back and forth, and then also encourages equality and participation. I know through a lot of social media, which is what we'll talk about next, people sometimes feel like they don't fit in or they're not as equal depending on kind of like how they express themselves or what they look like, and I think that has a lot to do with that people needing to communicate, especially through social media. So this does all connect to fast fashion as the trends do spread through sometimes people communicating. They show out of how usually brands will show their things through social media and things like that, and it so influences a lot of people based on their younger generation. And so a quote I did want to point out from our readings is they use language and foster connections to support closeness and mutual understanding, basically meaning that people who don't communicate through things like this kind of sometimes feel a lack of feeling connected to others and their backgrounds. My next one is going to be our personal culture connection, just basically explaining that my family and my culture ties into Mexico, and they have different perspectives on their clothing, mostly of the importance of secondhand clothing. A lot of them do not get as a privilege as we do in the States here. And so a key takeaway of this is that one person sees as outdated, another may see as valuable. And then another quote I did want to point out is that basically this quote is saying you're not alone in how you feel. And so some people and sometimes different places around the world feel like they don't fit in as much as others. And then lastly, for our conclusion to tie this off and kind of why it matters is fashion affects nearly everyone. It's not just you. People express themselves in different ways and how they see themselves. Encouraging others of understanding the different perspectives depending on how they want to express themselves and dress themselves is how they feel. And then lastly is highlighting their cultural and economic differences. Different cultures and how they express themselves obviously can depend on just where they're from, and everybody is different, and that's why diversity I think is very good for women's communication. Thank you.